Hello guys, in this video we'll build an appointment system to be more familiar with this time in Laravel and PHP generally. Let's start. Here is our system flow, and I will have a business hours model, right, and appointments model, right. Here in my business hour, imagine I am admin. I am creating also the days and time of our business hour. So here, for example, on Sunday we off, we don't work on Sunday, but on Monday and Tuesday and maybe other days, for other 7 days also of the week, we can work on Monday from 9 to 5, but on Tuesday we will work from 8 to 5, right. So here I created a new Laravel project called appointment, and here is the information about the project. I am using Laravel 9.45, right, and here's my simple database, the Scratch database from Laravel. And now let's creating our first model. Here I will say PHP artisan make model business hour here, and also I will create migrations and also seeder for that. Now it's created back here, and also in our configuration folder I created appointments file for weekdays, to access to weekdays to seed data here. So back here to our business hour model, business hour, and also it's created business hours file migration, as you can see here, right. So the first column we need is here table and string day for weekdays for these values, this one, right. And also we need table time for from, we start from, and also table time again for 2, we start working from 9, for example, until 5, right. And also another here is one step unsigned integer, here called the step. I will show you about that, and the default will be 60, right. Last one here table for holidays or off days, boolean, and I will say it's off, maybe true or false, right. So here let's migrate PHP artisan migrate, and it's migrated back and seen our database, and here's our business hours table, day, from, to, step, and off, right. Back again here in my model, and I will set guarded to null, here guarded equal to null to fill all values. And also we need to seed our data. So here our business, our seeder that we created here, this is our seeder, and I will say our days, right, days, get it from config inside appointments, I think, yes, this one here. I want to access this array, so here inside appointments dot days, right, and I will say here's our initial value for each, here for each days as day, right. Here our business hour model, business hour, update or create, update, let's use query update or create, here by name, so the name must be unique, day here, and use day, and by default we will start at here from, for example, 9, this is the initial value, and 2 here to 5, right, for all days. And I need also to add a thing here to appointments migration, this one, appointments, or sorry, business hour, business hours table. I want to set this default value to null or to false, default will be false, right. Back here to our business hour seeder, and in our array here I must separate them in a second array, right, to create values. And step here will be we can take 2 appointments per hour. I will set it to 30 and I will show you how, right? Let's beautify it using PHP Intelligence. And let's define our Cedar file inside database Cedar. Here, let's remove it, and we will say this call, as you know, classes here, business our classes. Let's copy it, and now let's run our db Cedar clear and PHP artisan db seed. We have an error. Off doesn't have a default value. Back to here off. Yeah, we must remigrate it actually. PHP artisan migrate fresh. Okay, now try our Cedar and it works. Back to our database, refresh our data here. I will show it. As you can see, from Sunday to Saturday we work from 9 to 17 or to 5, and step is 30, and we have no days off, right? This step here represents how many appointments can be accepted per hour. So if I back here, for example, and I will run PHP artisan tinker, right, I will generate all times between these 2 hours using step 30. So using the carbon, right, and the carbon interval, and I will say here use function called minute and 30, and we can say function called to period here, and between 9 and 5 17 as a string, by the way, right? Sorry, it's a minute, this one minute. And if we convert it to array here, to array, as you can see here, it generates time using start from 9 and then 9 half past, then 9 or 10, 10:30, 11, 11:30. Here is the idea of steps that we will use it, right? Back again and create our controller. Here PHP artisan make controller called business hour controller, and back here to our code. Let's close it and open our controller, business hour controller, and I will say here function index and return view. I prepared it before for video time, and we will say business hour blade inside appointments, right? Inside appointments, return this view here and return business hour blade. I will attach it in the description to take a look at it, right? Also, let's create our root, and I will say root here get appointment or business hours, right, and use business hour controller class method index, right? Back and see here, refresh and slash business hours, not found, business hours, copy paste. Now it works. Here is a static blade that I prepared. Here is our structure. I will take data from business hours, right, table, and here is the day from 2 and steps also, and we may check it off or not, right? So here in my controller, back again to our index method, I will say here business hours equal to business hour here and get or even all, right, because they are small data, at most 7, and I will compact it here, compact business hour, refresh, back to my view to make it dynamic, right? As you can see here, I will take one day as an example, right? Copy it here, and I will say add for each here business hours as business hour, and here we have the name, right? So instead of that I will say here business hour day, right? Forgetting the day name, this one Sunday, or any of them dynamic. And as you can see here, I set the name array of the day data, right? I set, for example, here hidden date name to upsert or updating or creating it. So here I will also use the dynamic value, this one here, business hour, right? Business hour name, or sorry, day again, and I will use its value here also. Let's back and refresh to test it. As you can see here, Sunday, Monday. This one is static, by the way. I will remove it here. Refresh. Now we have 7 days, right? Also we need to set other data because it's static currently. I will select all, and here I will say again business hour day name. Let's remove it here, data, for example, dot Monday and from, right, to get Monday data and each day together. Refresh, it works fine. If I create an endpoint here, I will say function update, and I will say request. By the way, guys, I will add validation in the next part, right? Here request, and if I die and dump here request all, right, I will create another route here. This time will be post, for example, and I will say update. I will give it a name called business hour dot update. Copy it and use it in our action inside blade, this one here, and let's check is everything works correctly or not. Also I want to remove this or fix it here to be business hour days, this one. Everything must be dynamic, and also here for this off value for off days I will use here for business hour is off or not, this one. If it off, make it a check, this one here, off, back and refresh, and now it's unchecked because all days is not off, all are false, right? Here back and save. Now we don't have it. Okay, I must add root actually here, this one here, root, back and refresh again, save, and here we have our die and dump data, 7 days, right? As you can see here, Sunday, Monday, and as you can see also name Sunday and from to step null currently. Let's fill them quickly here, and also we must fill this data because we have this data actually from our model. This value equal to here business hour and use from, refresh, as you can see from 9, and to also copy paste it here to, and also step, right, step, refresh, and it works good. So now if we save it here, we have all data are filled, right, and we make it work correctly. As I mentioned, I will add validation in the next video. What if we want to change, for example, the value of that here? instead of 17 I will select at 7 or 19. I will check OK for Monday. If we save it here, now we have for Monday is 19, right? Back and here in our endpoint controller, and I want to format this data to use upsert method. I want to get rid of keys, so I will say here swan data equal to request all, right, and access to data. And also I want to use array values directly without keys, right? Array values, and if I die and dump it here, dd data. Now refresh, and it doesn't work because we must also loop around them, right? So actually we can use it directly here. Use array data, refresh. Now it works as expected. 7 arrays, each one represents a day, right? But instead of this k name, I will change it to day, right? So back here to our blade, and I will change it from name to day, right? Day, and we will say here business hour upsert, right, this data, and it will be unique by day, day name, and update other data, then maybe return back. So here back again, refresh. I will change Monday values. For example, on Monday we work from 9 or 10 to 7, right? Back and refresh or save here. It's saved. And if you noticed here, values has been duplicated, right? If we back here to our database, here value have been duplicated. The reason behind that, if you remember in this lesson, you can watch it from here, we use unique by day. But if you use MySQL, we must set an index or unique index for this day column, right? So we must back here to our day or migration table, and for day set it unique, right? And also again migrate fresh, php artisan migrate fresh, and again cedar db seed, back again here, refresh. Okay, and if we back to our table, now refresh, and I will set this value from 17 to 19, right? Save. And also I want to change the step from 30 to, for example, 20. Save. It's saved now, and as you can see here, it works fine. Back to our database, refresh, and it works as expected, right? Let's add some data here to our model for business hour here. Some getters, business hour model, and I will say here, for example, function get times period, and here I will say return, or using carbon, and use also carbon interval, not carbon interval, and I will say minutes here, and here I will use this step to generate period between here to period between start or from to, between these two time, and here first is this from and this to, right? Use return, and don't forget to add attribute here, attribute. Now let's test it inside our tinker and php artisan tinker, and we will say, for example, business hour first here, first, and also get the period, time period here. Now it generates array. We must also use to array because it's object to array, right? back again, tinker, try to get it. Here is our objects for periods between these two data, right? On which day? I think on Sunday, right? And also, instead of returning array of object, we need to convert it to string. So I will quickly use array map here, right? Times equal to this value, and return array map. Instead of looping around them, I will use short or arrow functions for time inside times, here times as a second parameter, and I will say here time format, because as you know this is carbon object, and I will say format hi. Back again and retest it, artisan tinker, get time period, and as you can see here, start from 9 to 17 or to 5, and also generate period using a step. So 9, 9:30, 10, 10:30, and so on. Let's try it for Monday, because if you notice here, Monday's step is 20, right? So it must be 9 and 9:20, then 9:40, and so on. So let's check here, find ID number 2, and as you can see here, it works as expected. Start at 9, then 9:20, 9:40, 10, 10:90, 10:40, 10:40, and so on, right? Now let's move to the second part, which is appointments or reserving an appointment. Also here we will add another column called time, right? Time. And now let's create our model. Here will be PHP artisan, this one clear, PHP artisan make model appointment, and also create migrations. And here is our model has been created, this one here, appointment. And let's create guarded to null or empty, and also appointments table. Here inside migrations we will say table and date, also date, and time, which is also time, and I think user ID also is required. Table here foreign ID, user ID, and constraint, yes. And now we need to migrate it. PHP artisan migrate. It's migrated back to our database and check, and here we have our appointments table, right? User ID, date, time, and timestamps. Now our logic will work like that. We will display, as in this view, display the next 7 days available appointments, and user will select an appointment from here, right? So I create this static view called reserve here, and as you can see here, it will contain the date, right, without year, from now and next 7 days, and also the day name and available hours. So let's implement it by creating our controller, PHP artisan make controller and appointment controller. Back to our controller here, appointment controller, point, and let's create our function which is called index, and I will say here return view appointments dot reserve. Create our root inside web, and here root get and reserve. Our controller is appointment controller class and call index, right? Back here to our server, reserve, and it works fine. Now let's generate 10 or 7 days from now and next week. We can do it easily here using slow control. Let's close them, and we will say here date period equal to carbon period, to generate period between two dates, right? Create, and I will say now and next 7 days. Add days 6, right? And here also we want to get these days business hours. So here if we loop around them for each here, and I will say date period, here date period as date, and here dd date, it will return the carbon object, right? Refresh, here's our carbon object. So we can get name of the day from here by using format method. So let's create a variable called day name and date format d, right? If we die and dump day name, it is only sun. Instead of m or d we can use l. Here is our Sunday, like the same format inside our business hour here table. And also I will say here, right, and from business hour we can get it here, business hour hours equal to here business hour, okay, where day equal to this day name first, right? And also from this attribute here get time period or times period here. And if we die and dump this business hour, here's business hours, back again refresh, it returns as expected, right? Also we need to get all appoints, right, or appointments for that day. So if I say here date, right, and I want to get the current appointments for each date from these 7 dates, right? So also first we need to migrate our appointments here, php artisan, I think we migrated, okay. So now we will say current appointments, and we will say here appointment where date equal to this date to time string or to date string, and also block the time. So I will say here get date, right, get all appointments related to that date, and also get the array of times. Here I will say to array, right, die and dump here current appointments, refresh again, and we have no times, right? That means all times or all business hours are available. If I back here, for example, and I will create an appointment manually, for example user ID number 1 and date is today, right, here 2022 or 2023 0101, and the time, for example 09 here, save, and if we refresh again, now we have an appointment, so user cannot reserve at this time, right? So here we can say what is the available business hours. Available hours will be here array difference from business hours and current appointments. Current appointments. Now die and dump here available hours, refresh, it also returns 9. So we must also, if you noticed here, for available, or sorry, for current dd current appointments, refresh, it's 9, and also minutes, and also if you notice here it returns second, so we don't need to return seconds here. So inside our appointment I will say here castes protected castes, and I will say for time, yes, it will be date time, and also it will be hi only, right? Refresh again. We have an error. I think here is the syntax. Now it fixed, but also returns the carbon object, so we can format it easily right now. Back to our controller here, and instead of to array directly, so here we will say map function and time, which represents this value, formatted value, and I will say here return time format and hi only, right? Now don't forget to use to array, and let's try again. Now it returns the same values that we want. So now if we check the value available hours here using difference between business hours and current appointments, refresh. Now we start from 9 half, right? 9:30. Let's change another data here. For example, instead of 9:30 or 9, we can use 9:30, right? Save, refresh, which means 9:30 eliminated because it's not available, and other times available. Let's add another value to make sure it works correctly. So here I will add here, for example, 10, 10:30. Here's 10:30. Refresh now. So 9:30 and 10:30 eliminated. It's good. And here, let's back to our code, and now we need to fill this data, right? So we can make it easily here. Data array, and for that here we will say our data push here equal to, we will push arrays, right? And first we will say day name is day name, and date also is date, and format will be day and the month, right? And also, sorry, this date, and also available hours here, available hours will be this available hours, right? Available hours. Now let's undump this data array, refresh here, format, not for me, refresh again. Now as you can see here, 7 days, right? And here Sunday, Monday, and for Sunday, let's zoom it, 1 of January, which is today, and we have 15 available hours, right, or available appointments. And for here, for Monday, all available, right, and so on for other days, right? Now let's format it using our view, and I will come back to here, compact data, refresh, and as you noticed here we have the date. So back to our view, reserve, and we will use for each, add for each data, or actually we can say appointments, yeah. And also we need to change it here, appointments, and also here for each appointment, and instead of that we will use appointment here with day name, or first start with date, right? Date. Now refresh, and also let's fix it, it's not has dash, and also appoint, not appointments. Now refresh, it works fine. Also instead of Sunday we can use day name, day name, and for these hours we can say here, let's remove it, it's called available hours, right here, available hours as time, refresh this here, it's called appointment available hours, it's a key not variable, refresh. Now we have all our available times on Saturday 7 January, right? But if you notice here we list only one date, so how can we list all of them? Copy this column, right? We can use it inside the loop, refresh and remove dd here. Now it works fine from Sunday, which is today, to 7, and here available times, right? And if you notice here also I created forms for that, so here I created hidden inputs for date, right, and also for time, and also we must make this time or date dynamic by using this date value, so we can use the same value here using appointment date. Let's remove it, right, save. Now refresh and it works fine. Now if we inspect it here, console, or sorry, elements, you can inspect here, and as you can see here it returns the value of date and time, right, for this, and also it submits with this value, but we need to add the date format like that. As you can see here, this one, year, month, day, so we can add another key here called, for example, this one, full date, and for this date format here use year, month, day, right, back and use it inside our blade, full date, refresh again, and it works as expected, right? So now if we click on one of them, we need to implement an endpoint to make reserve of this appointment. So now let's create it. Back to our controller, and here function reserve, right, and request here, we need to call this class request, okay, and once this endpoint uploaded or selected, we will die and dump here request all, right. Back to our web, create a new route, but this time will be post and reserve, and let's create name dot reserve here directly, and let's use it inside our blade for this form, route curly braces first, route and reserve, don't forget to add csrf here, and now back, refresh again, select any time, didn't work, I think it must be post here, post, sorry, reserve, back, refresh, select any time, now it returns date, time as selected here. Let's select another one, for example 5 January at 11, here 5 January at 11, right. Here in our database we have user ID, date, time, and we will install Jetstream. So back here to Laravel and select Jetstream, this one, or Breeze, actually Breeze here, I will install it, refresh, and now I installed it. Back to our home page, register, right, so ahmedtest.com, password, and password. Back again, try to select any date, right? And if I die and dump current authenticated user ID, here dd request user, for example, refresh, it's null, maybe user, as you can see here. And also we can use authentication here, helper auth ID, refresh. Now I authenticated as user ID number 2, and we need to add here or to include the current authenticated user ID, because we have date time in the request but we don't have user ID. So we can do it easily here, data equal to request and merge if missing, or even merge directly, merge user ID equal to, must be array, user ID will equal to current authenticated user ID. Back again and die and dump data, refresh its request. So we can say here to array, refresh again. Now we have date time and user ID, right? Back, refresh. For example, here I will select on Saturday at 9, right? And I will save it and set appointment. So here we will say appointment create, right, data, and return, for example, created. Refresh, it works. Back to our appointments table, here refresh again. Now we have user ID number 2 on 7 January at 9 o'clock. Back to our appointments again to make sure. Here, as you can see, it's not available and it works fine, right? Also, what if we have a day as off, right? Also, what if we have a day off? For example, here if I back to my database and I will set Sunday off and Saturday also off, right? Save, refresh, we still have these days, right? All these appointments. How can we disable or hide appointments for off days? We can go to here our appointment controller, right? And as you can see here, we fetch by day, and let's separate it here. We can say here business hours, right? And instead of that I will say here, we can say directly hours equal to business hours, the same, right? And we can change it here, actually a semicolon, and for business hours here I will fix it to use object of this value, right? Remove it, and here I will add another key called off, right? It will take the value of business hours, and I will say here off, right? Back again, refresh, and back to our appointments blade, right? Reserve, here this one, and I will check before, let's remove it also, I will check before listing the times. If it's not off, then list these values, right? So back here, and I will say at, or sorry, here at F, and in F here appointment one off, right? Cut it here, paste, and we will say not off. So refresh, appointment, sorry, refresh, also we must add it here, refresh again. Now it works fine. Saturday and Sunday has no appointments, right? So in this part we built this system quickly. In the second part we will clean it up. Support me by clicking on like, share and subscribe. See you in next videos.